There is no room for you here, and there is no food, my son-in-law snapped, placing a plastic plate with leftovers on the floor during our big family dinner. I expected family warmth, but instead, I received humiliation in front of strangers. I turned around and walked away without saying a word. The next day they regretted it, because my silent revenge began to destroy their world. Before we continue, please subscribe to the Williams Revenge Stories channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are right now. The unknown cars in my driveway made me hesitate. 3 of them parked at careless angles, as if their owners did not plan to stay long. I checked my watch. 5 o'clock exactly. I walked toward the door of the house I had built with my own hands 30 years ago. I knocked. Voices inside. Laughter. The clinking of glasses. No one answered. I knocked again. The door swung open. Michael filled the frame. Over 6 feet tall and broad-shouldered, wearing a sweater that probably cost more than my truck payment. He did not move aside. "You are late," he said. "Actually, I am right on time." He looked over his shoulder, then at me, as if he were calculating something. "We are in the middle of dinner. Emily invited me at 5. I kept my voice steady. It is 5 o'clock. He shrugged and finally moved, but not in a welcoming way, more like he was tolerating me. I walked into my own house and stopped. The dining room was full of strangers. 8, maybe 9 people I had never seen, all sitting around the table I had restored myself last spring. Young people, Michael's age, holding wine glasses and looking at me with mild curiosity. The kind of look you give someone's elderly relative who shows up during a party. Emily came out of the kitchen carrying a serving bowl. My daughter, 35 years old and still beautiful just like her mother had been, the same high cheekbones, the same careful way of moving. She saw me, and her eyes darted away. "Happy holidays, honey." "Hi, Dad." Her voice barely crossed the room. Michael walked past me, so close his shoulder brushed mine. "It was not accidental. We are about to eat. You showed up at an awkward time." The invitation said 5 o'clock. I looked around the room again, counting the chairs. It is 5 o'clock. One of Michael's friends, a guy in his 30s with a beard, raised his wineglass slightly. Acknowledgement or mockery? I could not tell. A woman next to him whispered something, and they both smirked. I scanned the table. Turkey in the center, sweet potatoes, green bean casserole, rolls, every chair occupied, every spot claimed. Where should I sit? The question hung in the air. Michael tilted his head, making a show of inspecting his own setup. That is a good question. Someone laughed nervously. A woman in a red sweater said, "Maybe we can squeeze in another chair." Not necessary. Michael's voice had that particular satisfaction of someone about to deliver the punchline of a joke. "I have the perfect spot." He walked into the kitchen. I heard cabinets opening, something plastic scraping. Emily stood frozen by the table, still holding the bowl. Our eyes met for half a second before she looked down. Michael returned with a plastic plate. The cheap kind, white with a flimsy rim that you would use for a child's picnic. He walked past the dining table, in front of all his friends who watched with uncertain expressions, and set it on the floor near the front door. Right there on the hardwood floor I had installed myself. Then he went back to the table and started scraping. He took the serving spoon from the turkey platter and dropped dry scraps onto the plastic plate. He added a spoonful of thick gravy, some stuffing that had been sitting out too long. He moved methodically, as if he had planned this. He placed the plate back on the floor, straightened up, and smiled. "Right here works for you." No one moved. The room had gone completely silent, except for someone's uncomfortable breathing. "What are you doing?" "Giving you exactly what you deserve." Michael crossed his arms. "You always said you were not picky." The bearded guy let out a short laugh. Then he stopped himself. Michael looked at him. "Something funny about family, taking care of family?" I looked at my daughter. She was staring at her own plate, her hands gripping the bowl so hard her knuckles had turned white, her lips pressed tight. She knew this was going to happen, and she had said nothing. That silence hurt more than anything Michael had done. I stood there looking at that plastic plate with its pile of leftovers, placed exactly where you would put food for a dog. The house settled around me with familiar sounds. The furnace kicking on, the refrigerator humming in the kitchen, sounds I had heard for 3 decades. I had built this table. I had paid for the food on it. I owned every brick of these walls. The old Arthur would have apologized. He would have laughed. He would have made some joke about eating in the truck. Anything to keep the peace. The old Arthur would have taken that plastic plate outside and pretended his son-in-law was not a cruel man and his daughter was not a coward. But something in me had changed. Something had turned hard and cold while I stood there watching Michael's performance. I looked at Emily one more time. She still would not meet my eyes. I turned and walked to the door. No shouting, no begging. Just one foot in front of the other, my shoulders straight, my head high. Behind me I heard the scraping of chair legs, someone clearing their throat. I opened the door and stepped out onto the porch. Before it closed completely, I heard the laughter resume. Easy laughter, relieved. The party continued. I stood there a moment in the November chill, the keys in my pocket. The keys to the house I was excluded from. The keys to the property I still owned. I got into my truck and did not start it right away. Inside, they were passing plates. Someone pouring more wine. Michael leaned back in his chair at the head of the table. Saying something that made everyone laugh, my hands found the steering wheel. They tightened. The lights of the house glowed warm against the darkening sky. I turned the key and drove away, but something stayed behind. Something I had carried for too long. The weight of trying to keep the peace. By morning I knew that weight would be gone. I do not remember the drive home. One moment I was leaving that driveway. The next I was standing in my own kitchen, still holding my truck keys. My apartment. Modest. Paid for. Mine. It felt empty in a way I had never felt before. Jacket still on. My good shoes, too. I stood there staring at nothing. No, not at nothing. I was staring at years of decisions that had led to a plastic plate on the floor. On the counter was a grocery bag. The dinner food I had picked up that afternoon. Roast chicken, mashed potatoes, cranberry sauce. Still sealed. I had completely forgotten about it. I left it there and moved to the kitchen table. I sat down. I pulled out my laptop. The hours that followed had a strange clarity, as if my vision had sharpened. I opened my banking app first. I reviewed 4 years of statements, highlighting transactions in my mind, living rent-free. The house they occupied had a market value of $1,500 a month. 4 years, $72,000. The business investment. Michael's tech startup that was going to revolutionize something or other. I had written a check for $80,000. He had signed an official, notarized promissory note. That document was in my filing cabinet. Smaller loans. Emergency help with credit card debts. Car repairs. Medical bills their insurance supposedly did not cover. I added it all up. Another $15,000. Maybe more. The total settled in my mind like a stone. $175,000. Minimum. I got up and opened the filing cabinet. I found the promissory note in a folder labeled Michael Business, my handwriting on the tab. Clear and hopeful. The paper was crisp. The signatures clear. Signed. Dated. Witnessed. Next folder. Property documents. The deed to the house they lived in. Titled solely in my name. I had bought it as a rental property 20 years ago. Kept it maintained. Planned to use the income for my retirement. Then Sarah died. A heart attack at 59. Sudden and brutal, and Emily needed her father. Or so I had told myself. When Michael's startup collapsed and they asked to move in temporarily, I had said yes. Temporary became permanent. 4 years. I sat down again with the documents spread out on the table. After Sarah died, I wanted Emily close, I said aloud to the empty kitchen. Hearing my own voice made it real. When Michael asked for money for the startup, I told myself I was helping family. When they asked to move in, I said yes to temporary, but I was not being generous. I was buying a relationship with my daughter. My phone vibrated. 11 o'clock. Emily's name on the screen. I watched it ring. 5 vibrations. 6. Then voicemail. The notification popped up. I played it on speaker. Dad, please. Her voice cracked. Background noise. Dishes clattering. Can we talk tomorrow? Please call me back. She had her chance to talk. At dinner, when it mattered, I turned the phone face down and opened the browser on my laptop. I typed, State eviction law, no lease. The results loaded. I read carefully. taking notes on a legal pad. The relevant section of the state property code. For month-to-month tenancy, or tenancy at will, the landlord must provide an eviction notice, minimum of 30 days for residential property. If the tenant refuses to leave after the notice period, the landlord can file an eviction suit without a rental contract we had never signed. Michael and Emily were technically tenants at will. I was the property owner. I paid all the taxes. I had the documentation. More searching. Promissory note. Enforcement. State law. Contract law. Statute of limitations. 4 years for written contracts. Michael's note was 3 years old. Inside the window. I kept reading until the sky began to turn gray outside my window. Dawn came slowly, pink and gold through the kitchen blinds. I had not slept. I did not even feel tired. The decision that had been forming all night crystallized with the daylight. I had spent years avoiding conflict, calling it keeping the peace. But there was no peace, only me, shrinking myself smaller and smaller until I could fit on a plastic plate on the floor. Michael made a calculation. He thought I was too old, too soft, too desperate for family to fight back. He was wrong. I stood up, my joints stiff, and walked to the bathroom. I showered, I shaved, I dressed in pressed khaki pants and a button-down shirt, business clothes. The face in the mirror looked older than 63, but the eyes were different. Harder. I made coffee, drank it standing by the counter. Then I took out my legal pad and wrote a list in clear handwriting. Mark Vance, attorney, property documents, promissory note, bank statements, eviction notice requirements, state law. I looked up Mark Vance's cell number. He handled real estate law for my construction business, had done so for 15 years. Professional relationship, not friends. That was important. At 6:15 in the morning, I called anyway. He answered on the third ring, voice thick with sleep. Arthur, what is wrong? I need an emergency meeting. Today. This morning. Silence. Then. It is the day after the family holiday. I know what day it is. Something in my voice must have registered. 9 o'clock. My office. At 9 o'clock sharp, I was sitting across from Mark Vance's desk. He looked tired but alert. About 55. Gray hair. Reading glasses on a chain. He studied my face. Arthur, you look like you have not slept. What happened? I placed the documents on his desk. Property deed, promissory note, bank statements printed at home. Highlighted. I need to evict my daughter and son-in-law from my property. Mark went very still. That is, I need you to walk me through this. No emotional appeals, I said. Just the process. How fast can it happen? He took the documents. Read slowly. Asked questions. I answered each one with precision. Yes. The property was solely in my name. Yes. They had been living there 4 years. No. There was no lease. No. They had never paid rent. Yes. I had been covering all property taxes. Insurance. Maintenance. The promissory note, Mark said, tapping it. This is enforceable. Signed. Notarized. Dated. Have they made any payments? 0. He leaned back in his chair. State law is clear here. Notice to vacate. 30 days minimum for residential. If they refuse, we file an eviction suit in the Justice Court. Usually takes another 3 or 4 weeks. And the loan? Separate civil matter. We would file a suit for breach of contract. But Arthur, he took off his glasses. I have to ask, are you sure about this? It is your daughter. I looked him in the eye. Yesterday I went to a holiday dinner at my own house. Michael put leftover food on a plastic plate on the floor. Emily watched and said nothing. Mark stared at me for a long moment. Then he put his glasses back on. I will draft the notice to vacate today. We worked through the details. Mark explained his approach. Formal eviction notice sent via certified mail, plus a separate demand letter for repayment of the $80,000 loan. Documentation of everything. Dates, amounts, communications. I want everything on the record, I said. Every dollar, every date. This will get ugly, Arthur. It is already ugly. I am just making it honest. An hour later, I signed the papers authorizing Mark to proceed. He would send the certified letters on Monday. Today was Friday. Courts were closed. I stood up to leave, then stopped at his office door. "What changed?" Mark asked. "You have been helping them for years. I finally saw what they saw when they looked at me. Someone to use, someone who would accept anything to avoid being alone. And now? Now they will learn what it costs to confuse patience with weakness." I walked out of his office building into the bright Friday morning sun. Cold air, clear sky. My phone showed 5 missed calls from Emily. 3 voicemails I had not listened to. I opened a text message, typed carefully. "You will receive legal documents on Monday. Do not contact me until you have read them." I stood there on the sidewalk, thumb hovering over the send button. Once I pressed it, there was no going back. The relationship I had tried so hard to preserve would be gone, but maybe it had been gone for years, and I had simply refused to see it. I pressed send. The weekend passed in silence. I worked. I did not answer calls. I waited for Monday. Monday morning found me at my construction office, surrounded by project bids needing review. Coffee went cold in my mug while I stared at spreadsheets without seeing them. My phone rested face down on the desk. The same phone that had sent the warning text to Emily 3 days ago. Now it was their turn not to hear from me. The certified mail tracking app showed out for delivery at 8:15. I refreshed it every 10 minutes. 9:30. 9:45. Then delivered. Signature obtained at 9:47 a.m. I clicked on the signature image. Michael's scrawl. Unmistakable. My phone vibrated. Text from Mark. Delivered. Signed 9:47 a.m. Michael's signature. I pictured Michael opening the envelope. The official letterhead. Mark Vance. Attorney at law. The words "Notice to vacate" in bold at the top. 30 days. That is all the law required me to give them. 30 days to undo 4 years of taking advantage. 15 minutes later, my phone rang. Michael's name on the screen. I let it ring 4 times before answering. I put it on speaker and continued reviewing a materials invoice. "Yes? Is this some kind of joke?" He was laughing, but the sound had edges. "This eviction thing? It is a legal notice, not a joke. Come on, Arthur." The laughter died. "Are you really going to kick your own daughter out over a dinner? I am reclaiming my property. You have 30 days. His voice changed, anger leaking through. "You cannot do this. We have rights. No, you have 30 days. Read the notice carefully. It explains everything." The call ended abruptly. He had hung up on me. I set the phone down and went back to the invoice. He thought it was a bluff. He thought I would fold. He was wrong. 2 hours later, Emily called. I almost did not answer, but something made me pick up. "Dad, please." Her voice was thick with crying. "Please do not do this. You saw how he put food on the floor for me. You said nothing. I did not know what to do. Michael gets so angry when. Then you have a bigger problem than where you will live next month. That is not fair. You are punishing me for his behavior." I kept my voice level. "I am ending an arrangement that stopped working. You are adults. Find your own place. We cannot afford it. Do you know Michael's business has not recovered? Then he should have thought about that before humiliating me in front of strangers." She tried different angles, reminded me of childhood moments, said I was all she had left after her mother died, asked how I could abandon family. Every word was designed to make me feel guilty. It might have worked a week ago. And what about the money lawsuit? Her voice cracked. $80,000? Where would we get that? Michael signed a promissory note. It is a legal debt. You are destroying us. No. I am just not funding you anymore. There is a difference. I am your daughter. Yes. And you chose your husband over your father. Now live with that choice. I ended the call this time. Another power shift. I sat in the quiet office surrounded by the documents of my legitimate business, built over 30 years of honest work. I felt something break inside me. Not my resolve. Something else. The part that still hoped she would choose differently. That afternoon, Mark called. Michael's lawyer contacted me. A guy named Jimenez. A discount practice that handles everything from traffic tickets to divorces. What did he say? Asked if you would be willing to negotiate. I said no. Asked if there was any procedural error in the notice. I said no. Asked for 60 days instead of 30. Wow. I told him the law requires 30 days, not 60. We are not negotiating extensions. Mark explained the rest. Jimenez had argued that Arthur had a moral obligation to family. Mark cut him off. This was property law, not family therapy. Michael had apparently gotten agitated, demanding his rights as a long-term occupant. What did you tell him about rights? That without a lease or payment history, his clients have minimal rights under state law. He did not like hearing that. After hanging up, I looked up Michael's social media on my laptop. I scrolled through recent posts. Dinners at expensive restaurants 2 weeks ago. Photos of a new watch. Looked very expensive, at least $1,500. Vacation photos in the mountains dated in October. He cannot pay rent, but he can afford a weekend in the mountains. Everything I needed to know. That evening, Michael called again. Different tone this time. The anger had been replaced by something that almost sounded like negotiation. I could hear Emily crying in the background. Arthur, let's be reasonable. We can work something out. The time to work something out was before that dinner party. I will apologize. Okay? I am sorry. It was stupid. Accepted. You still have 29 days to vacate. What about the money? I cannot pay $80,000. Then I will see you in court for the debt judgment. His voice took on a desperate edge. You would really sue your own daughter? The promissory note has your signature, not hers. But you are married. Joint assets. Figure it out. Silence. Then his voice changed again. Lower. Threatening. You will regret this, old man. You think you are so smart with your lawyer? 29 days. Clock is ticking. I hung up. Later that night, I sat at my kitchen table, reviewing the documents Mark had sent over. Additional materials I had requested. Utility payment history. All in my name. Property tax records going back 20 years. Every payment from my account, never from Michael. Insurance documentation. Maintenance receipts. Every scrap of paper reinforced my legal position. I picked up an old photograph from the box on the shelf. Emily's college graduation. Her mother standing next to her, both smiling. Sarah had been so proud that day. I remembered the weight of the camera in my hands. Remembered thinking we would have years of moments like that. Was I wrong? The question rose unbidden. Unwelcome? No, I was finally right. After years of being used, I was finally right. My phone buzzed with a notification. Social media alert. I looked at the screen. Text from Mark. Check this. It is going public. I opened the social media app and navigated to Michael's profile. A new post. Posted only a few minutes ago. The text was loading. The post was long, angry, and every word was a lie. I read it twice, feeling my jaw tighten with every sentence. Then I called Mark. We need to meet tomorrow, I said when he answered. He has declared war. The screen's glow lit up my face in the darkening apartment. I read Michael's post for the third time, forcing myself to absorb every calculated word. The headline. My father-in-law is kicking his daughter onto the street during the holidays. He had worded it carefully. Elderly man abandoning his family. Terrified daughter. Eviction in winter. Cruel and heartless. Every phrase designed to paint me as a villain. What he did not mention. The family dinner. The plastic plate. 4 years of living for free. The $80,000 loan he had never repaid. What he did mention. My wife is devastated. Her aging father. The cold of winter. Having nowhere to go. Photos attached. Emily looking distressed. The exterior of the house implying ownership. Them as a happy family at some restaurant. Carefully chosen truths organized into a complete lie. One passage made my hand tighten on the phone. After years of helping maintain his property and caring for him after his wife's death, he has demanded we leave with only 30 days' notice. I have tried everything to reason with him, but he will not listen. Family should mean something, but not to everyone, I guess. The post already had 47 comments, mostly sympathetic, shared 12 times. The comments scrolled by. How terrible. Sue him. What kind of father does this? Sending prayers for you guys. 3 comments from people I knew, business contacts, neighbors. Every word was technically true, and every word was a complete lie. I called Mark Vance immediately. How bad is this? For public perception, pretty bad. For our legal case, irrelevant. People I do business with are commenting, supporting him. Do not respond. Do not engage. That is what he wants. A public fight he can screenshot and use against you. So I just let him lie about me publicly? For now, yes. We answer in court, not on social media. Trust me on this, Arthur. I barely slept. By sunrise, Michael's post had 200 comments. At the construction office on Tuesday morning, I tried to focus on work. My phone vibrated constantly. Texts from worried friends. Angry messages from strangers who had seen the post, shared and reshared. An old friend. Arthur, what is going on? Did you see Michael's post? Call me. A former client. Disappointed to hear how you are treating your family. Unknown number. You should be ashamed. That is your daughter. My secretary knocked on the door around 10. 3 people called asking if the business is stable. I looked up. What? The Meyer Project client? He wants a meeting. Said something about discussing contractor reliability. The whispers had started. If he did that to his family, what about business commitments? Then Emily posted her own message. Shorter, but more emotional. Wounded daughter who did not understand her father's cruelty. The key line. I never thought my own father would choose money over his only daughter. She had attached a photo, a childhood picture of the 2 of us in a park. Her, maybe 7 years old, sitting on my shoulders, both laughing. I looked at that photo for a long time. More people took Michael's side. No one knew the full story. My instincts screamed to explain, defend, fight back. Mark's advice echoed. Do not engage. Around noon, Deborah Fields called, my accountant for the construction firm. Access to all financial records. Organized, meticulous. She never called unless something was actually wrong. Arthur, I need to show you something. Might be nothing. What is it? I was reconciling accounts and noticed discrepancies, going back about 18 months. My stomach tightened. What kind of discrepancies? Remember when Michael said he could help with vendor outreach? Did you give him any contact info? Yes. He said he had marketing experience. Silence on the line. Then, can you come to the office? I need to show you this in person. 20 minutes later, I was sitting across from Deborah's desk while she opened files on her computer. I found irregularities while preparing tax documents. She turned the monitor toward me. Michael was using your business contacts. He posed as your partner or representative. The screen showed emails. Michael's name with my company's signature line. He took deposits from 3 clients for work that was never performed. She clicked through the evidence. Client 1, $12,000 for a home addition. Client 2, $8,500 for a commercial remodel. Client 3, $15,000 for a multi-unit renovation. Total $35,500. Why didn't these people contact me directly? They tried. Michael told them he was semi-retired, that he handled new contracts. Remember when you gave him email access to help with that vendor issue? I remembered. A temporary login 18 months ago, when I had been overwhelmed with material shortages. He used my business to steal. I have all the emails. He signed as Michael Evans. Partner relations. People assumed it was a legitimate family business. My hands went cold. What else? Deborah hesitated, then clicked another folder. I found something else while pulling property records for taxes. Michael filed documents with the county 9 months ago. She opened a PDF. Official county document. A gift deed transferring the house from me to Michael. Required my notarized signature. The signature looked like mine, but the notary stamp was fake. Why did this fail? The county clerk noticed the notary license number didn't match their database. The documents were rejected, flagged as suspicious. They sent a letter to the property address, the house where Michael got the mail. He intercepted it. Looks like it. No criminal charges were filed because you never saw it, never reported it. I stared at the forged document. He tried to steal my house with a forged signature? Yes, and with the social media campaign he is running. Deborah looked me in the eyes. Arthur, he is trying to bury you before you can expose him. My grandmother always said, faces we see, hearts we do not know. I had never understood that phrase as deeply as in that moment. Within an hour, I was back in Mark's office with Deborah's documentation. He went through everything methodically. The emails, the deposit records, the failed deed transfer. His expression shifted from concern to grim satisfaction. This changes everything. Wire fraud, forgery, theft by deception. These are felonies. What about his social media campaign? It becomes evidence of guilt. He is trying to poison public opinion before his crimes come to light. What do? We file a police report today and contact the victims. They will need to file reports too. He will say, I am retaliating for the eviction. Let him say it. The evidence speaks for itself. Signatures, notary fraud, client testimony. This is no longer he said, she said. Michael had made a calculation. Destroy my reputation so no one would believe me when the truth came out. He had not counted on one thing. I kept records. I always kept records. Mark began drafting. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found the first name on Deborah's list. Thomas Green. Home edition job. $12,000. He answered on the second ring. Mr. Green, this is Arthur Evans from Evans Construction. We need to talk about Michael. A bitter laugh. Did he scam you too? Worse than you imagine. Can we meet tomorrow? I have been waiting 2 years for someone to listen to me. Tomorrow works. I walked out of Mark's office with a folder of evidence under my arm, walked through downtown in the December afternoon sun, past a coffee shop where someone was sitting with an open laptop, reading something on the screen. Michael's post. The person shook their head in disapproval at me. Let them judge. By the end of the week, they would know the truth. I walked to my truck and took out my phone. I dialed the non-emergency line of the city police department. When the officer answered, I said 5 words that changed everything. I need to report fraud. The police station smelled of burnt coffee and industrial cleaner. Thomas Green sat next to me in the waiting area, and we did not need to say anything. We both knew what Michael had taken. He carried a manila folder the same brown color as mine. Physical evidence of parallel crimes. Detective Sarah Morgan called us back 20 minutes later. About 45. Professional suit. Wedding ring. Reading glasses on a chain. Her office was small. Interview table. Recording equipment visible on a shelf. Case files stacked against a wall. She motioned for us to sit and opened her notepad. Mr. Evans, explain your relationship to Michael. What is his last name? I paused. Actually, I do not know. He never took Emily's last name, and she never mentioned his. Morgan looked up from her notes. Your son-in-law, and you do not know his last name? I realize how that sounds. I trusted him because my daughter did. That is how these cases usually work. She turned to Thomas. Mr. Green, you are the first victim on record. We spent the next hour presenting evidence. I laid out Deborah's financial records. The fraudulent emails with my company's signature. The failed deed transfer with its fake notary stamp. Thomas showed his signed contract. Michael Evans. Partner relations. Deposit receipts. A folder of unanswered emails and call logs. Morgan photographed every document, entered a case number into her computer, logged every date, every transaction. She worked methodically. Every paper was recorded, every date verified. Mr. Green, why didn't you report this 2 years ago? I tried. I was told it was a civil matter to sue in small claims court. $12,000 didn't seem worth the legal fees. Using someone else's business identity changes it. That is theft by deception. Morgan took notes. How many more are there? At least 2 more, I said. My accountant found them. Morgan made calls while we waited. Speakerphone. Professional courtesy so we could hear. Maria Castellanos answered on the second ring. Yes, she remembered Michael. Yes. She had paid a deposit. $8,500 for a commercial remodel. No, the work was never done. She had filed a complaint 3 years ago. Nothing came of it. Jamie Wu had a similar story. $15,000 for a multi-unit renovation. Promises, then silence. Another dismissed complaint. That is a pattern, Morgan said after the third call. He specifically targeted older clients. He used your reputation as cover. Understanding settled over me like cold water. Not only did he steal money, he stole my name, my reputation, 30 years of honest work, and used it as a mask. By early afternoon, Detective Morgan had enough for an interview request. I was back in my construction office trying to focus on a supplier invoice when Mark called. Morgan contacted Michael. Voluntary interview scheduled for tomorrow morning at 10. Will they arrest him? Not immediately. They will interview him, see if he admits anything. Offers an explanation. He will lie, probably, but they have documents, physical evidence. His lies will only bury him deeper. That night, Emily called. Her voice shook. Dad, the police called Michael. They want to interview him about fraud. I know. I filed the report. Stunned silence. Then, you? You went to the police? 3 people lost over $35,000 because Michael used my company name to steal from them. That is not possible. Michael wouldn't. I have emails, bank records, their testimony. It is not up for debate. Are you trying to put him in jail? No. I am reporting crimes. The legal system will decide the rest. She did not hang up immediately. A long silence. I could hear Michael yelling in the background. Words I could not make out. Dad, how many people? First time she asked for facts instead of making accusations. At least 4, maybe more. She ended the call without another word. The interview lasted 3 hours. Mark called me when it ended. I had been in my office all morning trying to work, checking my phone every 5 minutes. Michael arrived with Jimenez. Initial strategy was to deny everything, claim documents are fabricated. Morgan presented time-stamped emails, IP addresses matching his devices. He switched to calling it marketing help, said there was a misunderstanding about authority. I closed the project file on my desk. What about the forged deed? Claimed he found it like that. Said he was making inquiries about property transfer. Didn't know the signature was fake. Mark's voice held barely concealed satisfaction. Morgan said he was sweating buckets by the end. Did he admit anything? Not directly, but his lawyer looked sick. Jimenez knows Michael is lying and knows Morgan knows it. What happens now? She is referring it to the district attorney's office. Probably take a few weeks for a charging decision. But Arthur? This is serious now. Wire fraud. Forgery. These are felonies. Later that day, Deborah called again. I found another one. A contractor named Stephen Powers. Michael approached him claiming to be your nephew. Needed to rent equipment. $6,000 in tools that were never returned. How many more are there? I do not know yet. I am finding threads everywhere. Every contact list Michael had access to. I am cross-referencing. Keep looking. I want every victim to get justice. Arthur, how did you not see this? The question I had been asking myself for days. I trusted family. He counted on that. Late that night my doorbell rang. I was not expecting anyone. Emily was outside, alone. First time I had seen her without Michael in months. She looked exhausted, eyes red from crying. She did not ask to come in. Just stood on the threshold. Is it true? Everything? Yes. Michael said you are lying, making it up to justify the eviction. I walked to my kitchen table and picked up the folder Morgan had given me. Copies of everything. Police reports. Victim statements. Bank records. I held it out. Read them yourself. She stared at the folder, but did not take it. I can't. If I look, I have to. You have to look. You already see it. That is why you are here. She stood there, arms wrapped around herself against the December chill. The porch light cast shadows on her face. He is your husband. I understand loyalty. But loyalty to a lie is not love, honey. It is just fear. She left without taking the folder, but she came alone. First independent action in years. The next day, Mark received the court schedule. Eviction hearing set for mid-March. About 10 weeks later, Michael would have to answer to the fraud investigation. Criminal charging decision estimated in 4 to 6 weeks. Michael's lawyer filed a motion to delay eviction, claiming undue hardship and retaliatory eviction. The motion included copies of Michael's social media posts as proof of my intent to retaliate rather than reclaim property. The judge denied it in 48 hours. Facts did not support a retaliation claim. Through business contacts, I heard Michael was trying to borrow $80,000, approaching old friends, distant relatives, even casual acquaintances. Every refusal tightened the noose. He was drowning, and every hand he reached for pulled away. February arrived, cold and gray. I marked the March court date on my kitchen calendar with a red pen. The phone rang while I was making coffee. Mark, the district attorney filed formal charges. Wire fraud, forgery, theft by deception. When is the arraignment? Next week. But here is the interesting part. The eviction hearing got moved up. The judge consolidated it with the preliminary criminal hearing. What does that mean? It means Michael faces everything at once. The house, the money, the crimes. I looked at the calendar, counted forward. 3 weeks to court. My phone vibrated with a text. Emily, can we talk? Without Michael. I stared at those 4 words for a long time. My daughter, asking to talk without her husband. I typed 1 word back. Tomorrow. Then I sat in the quiet apartment and wondered if I had just won, or if everyone had lost. The answer, I knew, would come in that courtroom. 3 weeks. The calendar seemed to mock me with how slow time moves when you wait for justice. 3 weeks of waiting compressed into this moment. The courthouse steps felt steeper than they should. Mark carried the evidence folders as if they weighed nothing. They weighed everything. Michael and his lawyer were on the other side of the plaza. Michael glared at me with barely contained hostility. No more family man pretense. At least not when we were alone. Inside, the hallway smelled of floor wax and old wood, sterile fluorescent lighting, wooden benches, the distant echo of other courtroom proceedings. Michael and Jimenez took seats on one side. Mark and I sat opposite. Emily arrived last, alone. She walked down the center of the hallway and sat on a bench between both sides. Physical metaphor of her divided loyalty. Michael motioned for her to join him. She did not move. He greeted people passing by with a sad smile, whispering to Jimenez loud enough for others to hear, I just want my family back. When he touched Emily's shoulder, she flinched. Subtle, but I saw it. The bailiff appeared at the door. Evans versus Leonardo and Evans. The formal naming of the conflict. We entered the courtroom. Modern, small. The judge's bench raised. The gallery was almost empty. Thomas Green sat in the back row, supporting me. A young man I did not recognize sat behind Michael's table. As we walked in, Michael leaned toward Emily. Remember what we talked about? His voice barely audible from 3 feet away. I remember everything. He missed the double meaning. I didn't. Judge Catherine Rivers took the bench without ceremony. She reviewed the file as we settled. No preamble. This is an eviction proceeding consolidated with preliminary matters related to pending criminal charges. Mr. Vance, you represent the owner? Mark stood up. Yes, Your Honor. What followed was a methodical demolition. Mark presented the property deed. Sole ownership. Arthur Evans. Tax records showing every payment from my account. Utility bills in my name. My payment. No rental agreement. No payment history from occupants. He laid it out like building blocks, each document supporting the next. No emotion, just facts. 4 years of free occupancy with a calculated value of $72,000, plus an unpaid promissory note of $80,000. The occupants have no legal right to remain. Judge Rivers turned to Jimenez. Do you dispute these facts? Your Honor, we argue this eviction is retaliatory in nature. Based on what? The criminal investigation your client faces. Based on a family disagreement that escalated. A disagreement does not create tenant rights where none exist. Do you have documents showing your clients paid rent or have interest in the property? Jimenez called Michael to testify. Michael's strategy became obvious immediately. Present himself as the devoted son-in-law helping after his father-in-law's wife died. Claimed he had maintained the property, paid for upgrades, cared for Arthur during his grief. His voice trembled with practiced emotion. Mr. Leonardo, why do you think Mr. Evans is evicting you? I think he is lonely, angry. Taking it out on us because he cannot accept his wife is gone, Mark objected. Relevance. Your Honor. Mr. Evans' emotional state does not change property law. Proceed. Mr. Leonardo, do you have any documents proving you paid rent or have interest in the property? It was understood. Family does not need paperwork. Family might not. The law does. Mark introduced the fraud evidence. Technically not part of the eviction case, but Judge Rivers had allowed it as evidence of character and credibility. The attempted forged deed. The fraudulent business emails. Victim statements. Michael's performance cracked. Mr. Leonardo, did you attempt to transfer ownership of the property using forged documents? That is, the criminal case is separate. I do not have to answer. Did you represent yourself as a partner of Evans Construction to obtain client deposits? Jimenez stood up. Objection. Fifth Amendment rights. He may refuse to answer, Judge Rivers said, but this is a civil proceeding. I can draw inferences. Michael sat silent, sweating. No further questions. Judge Rivers called a 15-minute recess. In the hallway, Michael cornered Emily near the water fountain. You need to testify. Tell her how your father abandoned us. I do not think I can do that. What? I saw the emails. Michael? Dad showed them to me. You used his company to steal. He grabbed her arm. Those were business decisions he doesn't understand. He is old-fashioned. You forged his signature on our house. To protect us. To secure our future. By stealing from him? Her voice rose. People in the hallway turned to look. You are as pathetic as him. I should have left you years ago. The mask had dropped completely. Emily's face showed shock, pain, but also something new. Clarity. Michael saw he had lost control. Tried to soften. Honey, I am sorry. I am stressed. You know I didn't mean. Yes, you did. You meant every word. She pulled away from him. Sat alone on a bench, covering her face with her hands. First time Michael's true self showed in front of witnesses. Court resumed. The young man who had been sitting behind Michael was gone. Michael sat alone now. Emily remained in the gallery, not at his table. Judge Rivers had made her decision. This case is straightforward. Mr. Evans is the absolute owner of the property. The occupants have no lease, have paid no rent, and have no legal basis to remain. Evidence of attempted fraud and pending criminal charges speaks to credibility and good faith, or lack thereof. Eviction granted. Occupants must vacate within 14 days. Regarding the promissory note, that is a separate civil matter. Mr. Evans may proceed with collection through appropriate channels. Michael stood up. Your Honor, please, we have nowhere to go. 14 days is more than adequate to find alternative housing. Next case. The gavel sound. Sharp. Final. Michael stood frozen. Jimenez gathered his papers quickly, avoiding eye contact with his client. Mark shook my hand professionally. Outside, Emily was sitting on a bench in the March sun. Michael stormed past both of us without looking back. I sat next to my daughter. We did not speak for a moment. You won. The court ruled with justice. It is not the same. The things he said to me in there. I heard them. You were right about everything. I didn't want to be right. I wanted to be wrong. She stood up. Unsteady. Lost. Where will you stay? I asked. I do not know yet. Not with him. I pulled out a business card, wrote an address on the back. This is a short-term rental property I own. It is empty. Stay there while you figure things out. Rent-free for the first month. She took the card. Tears ran down her face. She looked at the card, then at me. And I saw my daughter again for the first time in years. Not Michael's wife. Not someone's possession. Just Emily. Thanks, she whispered. I nodded and walked to my truck. Mark was waiting by his car, phone already out. The prosecutor wants to talk, he said. Michael's lawyer is asking about a plea deal. This is moving fast now. I looked back at the courthouse. Michael was nowhere to be seen. Emily was still sitting on that bench, card in hand, deciding who she would be next. I got in my truck and started the engine. 14 days until they had to leave. But I suspected Michael would be gone long before that. I had barely left the court documents when my phone rang. Unknown number, city area code. Part of me wanted to ignore it, but something, instinct maybe, made me answer. Mr. Evans? You do not know me, but I know Michael. Or I thought I did. The voice was professional, with controlled anger underneath. I am Thomas Green. I was in court today. Were you in the gallery? Yes. When his lawyer mentioned the fraud charges, something clicked. I need to talk to you about LT Digital Solutions. My hand tightened on the phone. That was Michael's startup, the one I invested $80,000 in. That is what he told you. But there were two investors. You and me. He took $35,000 from me for equipment and software. I never saw a dollar back. The pieces connected. 2 years ago, he approached me with this revolutionary app idea. Showed projections, market research. All fabricated, I realize now. He used your investment as proof of viability. Said, my father-in-law believes in this. The company existed 6 months. Produced nothing. Dissolved quietly. Why didn't you pursue it? 35 grand hurt, but I am not ruined. I chalked it up to a bad investment. But hearing he did the same to construction clients used your name, I realized it was deliberate. He is already facing charges. Wire fraud, forgery. Add mine to the list. I want him held accountable for every lie. I gave him Mark's number and called my lawyer immediately after. This is good, Arthur. Mark's voice had energy. Good? Not good, but legally strong. Shows sophistication, premeditation. How many people did he hurt? We have up to 7 documented victims now. Total damages exceeding $100,000. The number settled on my chest like a stone. I brought him into my life. I introduced him to my business contacts. I made this possible. No. He made his choices. You were a resource he exploited. There is a difference. The next morning brought a different kind of call. Mrs. Lee, my neighbor near the property. An older woman who had lived on that street for 40 years. Arthur, dear, I see a moving truck at your house. Are they taking your things? What things? Furniture. I remember that dining set. You had it before they moved in. Your antique office desk? Understanding hit me like cold water. I am on my way. Call the police. Tell them there is a burglary in progress. I broke 3 traffic laws getting there. I did not care. The moving truck was in the driveway, tailgate down. Michael was directing 2 men loading furniture, my furniture. The dining set that had belonged to my parents. The desk I had restored myself. Tools from the garage. Landscaping equipment. He was selling my property to raise cash. I blocked the driveway with my truck. Michael saw me. His face shifted from panic to defiance. The movers stopped working. Sensing trouble. That is my property. Put it back. It is in my house. My possession. Your house? You have 13 days left. That furniture predates you by 20 years. Prove it. Photos. Receipts. My parents' estate documents. Do you want to add theft to your charges? One of the movers looked at Michael. Hey, you said this was yours. It is. He is lying. Officer Hayes arrived. The same officer who had handled the eviction paperwork. He took statements while I pulled up photos on my phone. The same furniture. Visible and dated family photos. Christmas pictures from before Sarah died. Time-stamped images from years before Michael entered our lives. Mrs. Lee provided witness testimony. She had seen me move that furniture into the house 2 decades ago. The movers confirmed Michael hired them, claimed he owned everything. Hayes told them to unload everything back inside. Michael tried to argue, kept escalating. Keep it up, and I will arrest you for obstruction, Hayes warned. Michael deflated, saw his escape plan unraveling. Mr. Leonardo, I am documenting this incident. The district attorney will be notified. You attempted to steal and sell property that is not yours. Michael turned to me, vicious. You destroyed my life. For what? Your precious house? You destroyed your own life. I just stopped letting you destroy mine. Hayes closed his notebook. Mr. Leonardo, I suggest you focus on vacating peacefully. You are running out of goodwill with the legal system. The movers left without getting paid. Michael had no money. The furniture was back inside. Officer Hayes filed his report and left. Michael stood on the porch. I stood by my truck. He looked at me with pure hatred. I felt nothing. No anger. No satisfaction. Just finality. I had spent months being angry. Now I just wanted him gone. The next 6 days were quiet. Too quiet. I hired a locksmith to change the locks on moving day. Arranged for a police escort on eviction day. Mark reported Michael's lawyer was negotiating a plea deal, facing 3 to 5 years probation minimum. Restitution to all victims. Emily texted me. Staying with my friend Sarah. Need time. She did not ask about Michael. I respected her space. My daughter was learning to be alone. I would not interrupt that. On the 14th day, I arrived at the house at dawn. Officer Hayes was already there. By chance, the same officer again. The house looked abandoned. Dark windows. No cars in the driveway. Michael had left during the night. No forwarding address. We entered together, documenting the condition. The house was trashed. Holes in the walls. Carpet stained with what looked like oil. Kitchen cabinets ripped off hinges. Deliberate destruction. Michael's final revenge. But he was gone. In the master bedroom, I found a single piece of paper on the floor. A handwritten note. You chose him. You will regret it. I will be back when you realize your mistake. Addressed to Emily. Threat and promise combined. I photographed it, texted a copy to Mark. I stood in the empty, damaged house, calculating repair costs. Several $1,000s. Michael did this knowing he would never pay for it. A small price for freedom, I thought. My phone rang. Emily calling. First call in 2 weeks. I stood in the ruined kitchen and answered. Her voice was small, unsure. Dad? Can we meet? I need to talk to you about something. In the background, I heard it. Michael's voice, distant but unmistakable. She was with him. My stomach dropped. Where are you? The line went silent for 3 seconds that felt like hours. A coffee shop. Neutral ground. She named it. Dad, I do not know what to do. I grabbed my keys, already moving toward the door. Text me the address. I am coming now. Do not leave with him. Promise me. I promise, she whispered. The call ended. I raced over. Through the window glass. I could see the geometry of tension. Emily at a table, Michael nearby at another, and a young woman I did not recognize sitting between them like a buffer. I pushed the door open. The bell chimed. The three of them turned. Michael's face hardened. Emily looked relieved. The young woman stood up protectively. You called him? Michael's voice held wounded disbelief. I thought we were talking privately. I told you I was calling my father. This is between us. Our marriage... I looked at Emily. Are you okay? Yes. Sarah has been here the whole time. Young Sarah nodded. He showed up 20 minutes ago. Demanded to talk. Emily said only in public with me present. Michael turned to me. This does not concern you. This is between my wife and me. Then why is she scared? She is not scared. She is confused. Because you have been poisoning her against me. Emily's voice was quiet but steady. Dad didn't poison me. You showed me who you are. In that courthouse hallway. I was upset. Under pressure. That was not the real me. I stepped closer. Which version is the real you? The one who forged my signature? The one who stole from clients? The one who put food on the floor? Michael drew himself up over the table. Sarah moved closer to Emily. Other customers watched. Everything I did for us, for our future. You stole. You lied. You hurt people. I made mistakes. But Emily knows I love her. That is what matters. Emily stood up now. Facing him directly. You love me? Of course I do. How can you even ask? You called me pathetic. In front of strangers. You said you should have left me years ago. I was angry. I didn't. Yes, you meant it. You meant it. Her voice was stronger now, firmer. I watched my daughter find her spine in real time. I have been thinking about that moment. What you said, how you looked at me. Michael softened his tone. Manipulative sweetness flowing. Honey, please, I was wrong. Let me fix it. You can't, because you weren't wrong about one thing. You should have left me years ago, because you never loved me. You loved what I gave you access to. That is not true. My father's house, his money, his business connections. That is who you married. Emily, listen to yourself. He is manipulating you. No, you are manipulating me, or trying to. But I see it now. I leaned back, did not intervene, did not add commentary. This was her moment, her fight. I had spent months fighting for her. Now I needed to let her fight for herself. Michael switched tactics. Vulnerability. Tears forming in his eyes. I have nothing. Nowhere to go. You are all I have. He reached out to take her hand. She pulled it away. You have nothing because you stole from people, because you lied. Those are your choices. Our choices. We were in this together. No, I was your shield. You hid behind us and together while you did whatever you wanted. His voice cracked. Fine. You want me to beg? I am begging. Give me another chance. I gave you 1,000 chances. Every time you were cruel. Every time you lied. Every time you made me feel small. I gave you another chance. Sarah touched Emily's arm gently. Emily, can we go now? Yes, we can. As Emily gathered her jacket, Michael's face transformed. The vulnerability vanished. Cold rage replaced it. He grabbed her wrist as she passed. I stepped forward. Sarah pulled out her phone. You walk away. You will regret it. His voice was low, threatening. Emily pulled free. Is that a threat? It is reality. You think you can make it without me? You are weak. You have always been weak. Maybe I was, but I am learning. He turned to me. This is your fault. You destroyed our family. There was no family. There was a hostage situation. The barista came over. Is there a problem here? Sarah held up her phone. I have been recording since he grabbed her. Michael saw the phone, realized the situation. He backed off. You will all regret this, he muttered. He walked out, didn't look back. Through the window I saw him get into a beat-up car and drive away. Emily sank into her chair, trembling. Sarah sat next to her, a supportive hand on her shoulder. I remained standing, giving them space. We sat there for 20 minutes before anyone spoke. Sarah excused herself. Gave us privacy. Left Emily and me alone at the table. I am sorry, Dad. For what? For not seeing it. For not believing you. For the holiday dinner. You were in a tough spot. I chose him. Over you. When I should have, I interrupted her gently. You chose what felt safe. Loyalty. Commitment. Those aren't bad things, even for the wrong person. Sometimes we can't see they are wrong until we are ready. I couldn't force you to see it, she cried. Real tears, not acting. I was afraid to be alone. After Mom died and then marrying Michael, I forgot how to be just me. I couldn't see how he destroyed you, even if stopping him looked like cruelty. Did you hate me when I defended him? No. I was frustrated. Angry. But not at you. At the situation. At him for manipulating you. I was so stupid. You had hope. That is different. Hope is not stupidity. What do I do now? Whatever you need. Divorce. Rebuild. Figure out who Emily is without anyone else defining her. She pulled out her phone. Started searching for divorce lawyer websites. Can Mark recommend someone? I want to do this right. Legally. Cleanly. I nodded with approval. She took off her wedding ring, placed it on the table between us, stared at it for a long moment. Then she slid it toward me. Can you keep this? I do not want it, but I am not ready to throw it away. I put the ring in my pocket without comment. We got up to leave together, walked out of the coffee shop into the afternoon sun. Sarah was waiting by her car, gave Emily a reassuring wave. As I opened my truck, Emily stopped. Dad, can I come over for dinner sometime? Just us. I felt something loosen in my chest, something that had been tight for years. Whenever you want. You are always welcome. She smiled. Fragile, but real. My phone vibrated. Text from Mark. The prosecutor offered Michael a plea deal. 3 years probation. Full restitution to all victims. Guilty plea to felony fraud. He has 48 hours to decide. If he refuses, they go to trial. I showed the message to Emily. She read it.